What's good, Watch the Commander fans? All right, today is a pretty good update of everything that has transpired for the last couple of days. It's probably going to be a two-part video um, to close out over the weekend. So yesterday there was some breaking news that the Commanders had made some initial cuts. Um, First was long Commanders tight end Logan Thomas, who Logan Thomas, we know that he um been with the Commanders for a while. He got drafted by Arizona Cardinals and everything like that. But Logan Thomas, he's been with us for a while and he has not really lived up to the potential. He had some flashes here and there before tearing his Achilles um injury a couple of years ago. But nevertheless, he hasn't really shown the ability to get back the way he needed to be. And with new ownership coming in, that makes a difference. What can they do with this roster? Now, we know that there's so many issues with this team, so many things that this team needs to improve on in a lot of areas. And it makes perfectly sense that the Commanders went ahead and made a um, cut Logan Thomas, which we already knew this before. Once the season started, there were so many names that we had out there that the Commanders needed to depart with. And now I thought that one of the guys that would have been on that cut list would have been probably Antonio um, Gibson, but nevertheless, the Commanders made three cuts. Per Mike Garfolio, he reported the news that Thomas would have had earned 6.45 million in this year, and he was due 500,000 of a roster bonus later that month. So, with Thomas being released, um, along with Charles Leno, also it gave the Commanders roughly 13.8 million against the salary cap. Now, Adam Scheffler, also from ESPN, later reported that the Commanders will also be releasing Nick Gates, somebody that we signed in the offseason for the Giants as well. And he never really did anything as well. So what Nick Gates will be released at the start of the new year in mid-March. So that's probably like 1 or 2 weeks away that what actually literally happened. But some people think that with these cuts is going to affect the way the Commanders draft. No, it's not. What it is that the Commanders is roughly going to put themselves almost 100 million over the salary cap money, along I think with the Patriots and other teams. And you have to understand that the Commanders need that extra money to probably utilize it to re-sign, probably like Curtis Samuel, re-sign probably Antonio Gibson, Cam Curl. So there's guys on this team that they could re-sign and bring back. So that extra money that by cutting these guys is going to help. It don't have nothing to do with the number 2 pick, because that holds weight by itself. Because before we cut these guys, we had over 80 million. And then if you were able to sign these guys or bring some guys in to sign, you have extra money to sign, and you don't have to dip into your big part of your money along the way, because you still could go and talk to Jonathan Allen. You could talk to Terry. You could talk to Deron Payne and see if they want to restructure their contract to bring back some of that money to add more to the team. So there's different ways to do that, because you still got Sam Howell on the rookie deal. You still got Brian Robinson on the rookie deal. You still got Jahan Dotson on the rookie deal. So you don't have to worry about them guys for probably another 2 years, 3 years going into this year. So if you could restructure probably Terry's contract, you could structure somebody like Deron Payne or Jonathan Allen, or if you end up deciding to trade Jonathan Allen, that's more money coming off the books there. So there's, like I said, the Commanders and Adam Peters and Josh Harris, they have so much to work with that is going to be beneficial for this team to do things that we have not seen them do in such a very, very long time. Now, going back to these cuts, Logan Thomas, he played 8 years in the NFL. Like I said, he had great success with us. He had 72 receptions, 670 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 2020. Now, we already, like I said, the injuries limited him. The injuries derailed him. I mean, he could have been, he took major hits from Sam Howell and Taylor Heineke. He played 6 games in 2021, and then he played 14 games in 2022. But he never came close to matching what he did in 2020, and that's because of the injuries. And you could have seen it the year before when he first came back, because him and Chase Young was supposed to be coming back at the same time, and he came back before Chase. You could see that on the field, and you could look at it this year too. His movement is not that good, and I think, to me, it kind of halted the process, because I do believe if the Rodgers guy didn't get hurt in preseason, I don't think Logan Thomas would have been on the team. I don't even think he would have started. But since he went down, Rodgers went down, then we ain't had no choice but to rely on him, because we didn't know what Cole Turner was. And I think that kind of helped Cole Turner's development as well. And that's something that we probably going to have to see more of his development. And we're going to have to probably draft a tight end. But having Logan Thomas out there, and then you had John Bates. I mean, he was decent. He's more of a run blocker. But there's some catches he could have had this year too. But he's not a receiving tight end. You need a guy like almost like a Brock Bowles or Sam Laporta and all of these guys that we missed on. Going back to last year's draft, we missed on some tight ends that we could have had. Now, this year's tight end class is just as good, but we missed on something, So I think this roster could have been way better constructed and been in a better position for Josh Harris to when they took over, and Adam Peters and all of these guys, where they could have probably said, well, we don't have to do too much work. But nevertheless, I trust these guys wholeheartedly to know what the heck they're doing, and they are able to go and put a roster together that's going to be formidable. Now, this season past, Logan Thomas did grab 55 catches for 496 and 4 touchdowns, but he got hit and knocked out of the game and everything like that. And that kind of was the tale of the tape of everything that was going on. Now, like I said, we did also release Charles Leno, which I feel like I never was high on Leno. I just don't. Some people say he had these PFS stats against certain areas, but his overall production, if you got the eye test and you looking at the game, you can see how horrible he has been. He hasn't been that good. So what makes you think that at the same time this guy was going to be somewhat good? He wasn't. To me, he wasn't. So I just think that cutting Leno, he's 32 years old. He will have hip surgery next week. So that's a roster spot you don't want a person that's having surgery take up. You know what I'm saying? Last season, he was on injury reserve because he had calf problems. He only played 47 games for the Commanders over the last 3 years after joining the team from Chicago. So you mean this guy was on this roster and he played only 47 games over 3 years. I mean, you could think about this 12 and 12 is 24. Okay, he played pretty decent games. Leno first played 7 seasons with the Chicago Bears, who released him in 21. Then he converted, you know what I'm saying? So, me personally, I just think that we his spot on the team is going to be, you know, we're going to have to fill that spot. Nick Gates' spot is not going to really matter because we signed him in free agency. And he was supposed to be, I think, the center for the team. And then he lost his starting job to Tyler Lawson midway through the season before getting it back on the field late when Lawson was injured. But we signed him to a 3-year deal, which we shouldn't have because, you know, like I said, this team got several holes. But Adam Peters did state that they will be looking at O-line a lot as well as quarterback. And he did quote Adam Peters say, I feel like it's very hard to evaluate quarterbacks, but you have to try to get better and try to understand what you did the last time that was really good and what you did last time that was really bad. Peters told reporters in Indianapolis, different processes. Hopefully there's not a whole lot of bad things that you did, but you always learn. And so it's consistently evolving. And I do not think anybody has the magic pill to understand that one, which is agreed. You don't. You look what you did bad. You look what you did good. You try to take the good with the bad, and then you try to add to the good, you know, to fill up the bad areas of the team. Now, he also stated that the entire offensive line could be remade in the coming weeks and months with Peters and Dan Quinn reshaping the all facets of the team. Washington, you know, new offensive coordinator Kingsbury, and while Bobby Johnson came over as the O-line coach, you bet your bottom dollar that this offensive line is going to be a little bit better. And also, the Cowboys just released one of their top offensive linemen. So maybe could bring him in pretty cheap to plug at that spot that Jay Leno had. And still, I do believe we're going to probably sign 2 offensive linemen in free agency. And I think we're going to draft a few. I think we're going to draft probably about 3 offensive linemen this year. I think because you want to have depth. I think the offensive line, and just like our defensive line, we had depth at the defensive line last year. The offensive line needs depth. You need to have about 4. And then, you know, once the draft over, you got unrestricted free agents that you bring in and do all the other stuff that you need to do. So I feel like that's going to be very, very important. You sign 2 free agencies, time 2 through free agency, then you bring in some through the draft, and then you pick up some along the way. You have to have depth. You got to have depth for this team, especially if you're going to run the ball a lot, and you're going to set up the pass a few times throughout the game. So that's what I'm looking at right there. But nevertheless, I think the Washington Commanders are going to do something special. And right now, I'm really paying attention to the NFL Combine. But I got another segment of video to come up later on today. But the Commanders created more cap space, which is going to be very, very needed at free agency, and hopefully used to bring back 1 or 2 guys. You know, I think Curtis Samuels might be, I don't know, between Curtis Samuel and Antonio Gibson, I think one of those 2 is not going to be back with this team. That's what I see. I really believe that. I think that's going to, and I feel that. I think Cam Curl probably will be resigned, but I think we're going to add some more pieces in the back end of the defense along for depth purposes. So we'll see. But nevertheless, great stuff as always. So continue to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell every time I drop a hardcore video. Until then, this your boy Livewire Media for the Washington Commanders. I'm out.